All right, so your recipe's calling for a little Crystal 60. And Crystal is one malt that we use to add color and flavor to our beer. Crystal 60 is a medium crystal, which will add a little amberish type color and a little nutty character and some body and some mouthfeel. And with the grain, we weigh it out. And before we can use the grain, we have to crack the grain. And the grain needs to be cracked to expose the inside, called the endosperm, where all the flavors and the goodies can come out and get into your beer. And here we have the grain mill. We got the grain weighed out, and we're going to crack it. Now, all of these grains, you see quite a long list of these grains, all add different colors and flavors and bodies to your beer, and that way you can take your base malt, which you saw us get earlier, and manipulate it into a Hefeweizen, into a stout, into an amber ale, into a Belgian beer, any type of beer you want. You take the base malt, you take these specialty grains, and you manipulate your beer to whatever recipe you like. And that's why there's so many different beers of the world, because there's so many different combinations.
Kelly, one of the things that maybe you could talk to us about a little bit, because we don't normally use the grains in most of our processes, is once we get this cracked grain and we bring it back and we're doing our homebrew, exactly what do we do with it, how do we handle it, and then how do we put it actually into the wort? Okay, well, grain is like a tea bag or coffee grinds. You would add that to hot water, and in the hot water, it's called steeping the grain. In that hot water, you're going to get the flavor and the color out of the grains. And we usually use what's known as a grain bag or a bag to put the grains in. And after 20 or 30 minutes of steeping in a prescribed temperature, usually between 150 and 160 degrees, the grain is removed just like you would a tea bag, and now you have tea. Same thing. These grains, which we just cracked, is then going to be steeped in some hot water, giving you the color and the flavor for about 20 or 30 minutes at 150, 160 degrees, and then removed. That's what we're going to add the malt extract syrup to, and that's what we're going to boil for an hour with our hops.
So it's pretty similar to the sock hops we use.
Exactly. Sock hop is a type of bag that we'll get to in just a second when we get our hops and our yeast. Let's get our hops and yeast right behind you in the refrigerator. And we got to keep them refrigerated to keep them fresh. And let's start off with the hops. What is your recipe calling for?
We're going to need some Cascade hops for this.
Cascade. Cascade hops are very citrusy, kind of like Sierra Nevada uses that. Cascade is what we call a dual purpose hop. It can be used as bittering, flavor, or aroma. Cascades hops are used 3 different times in your beer to give you flavor and bitterness and aroma depending on how long you boil them. Okay, there's several different hops to choose from. Cascade being probably the most popular one, but there's traditional German Hallertau, known as a noble hop. There's English Vogel hops. There's German Spalt hops. There's American really high bitter Magnum hops. All of these give you different flavors and aromas and bittering levels depending on which way you want to go. Here's your Cascade right here. When you buy hops, you want to look for the alpha acid listed on the hop. Alpha acid will determine how much you want to use if you're really concerned exactly to get the bitterness level every time you brew for consistency. And all hops will have an alpha acid listed on it. How much of the hops did you need?
We normally use about 4 ounces.
4 ounces, so you're hop heads.
We are.
Well, if you're going to do it, you might as well do it right.
We like to be hoppy.
We're going to need one more thing from you since you're right here. We're going to need some American yeast.
Okay, so
American ale yeast, I should say.
Yes, and we're not going to do a lager, are we? I can tell you the difference between ales and lagers if you like.
Well, we normally do ales, but if you want to tell us what the difference is, maybe the next time we come in here, we'll go and do a lager.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yes, well, the American ale yeast, again, just like the Cascade, is one of probably the single most popular ale yeast. At least in North America. Sierra Nevada uses it, most of your West Coast brews use it. But American ale yeast comes in 2 different forms. It comes in and most of your dry yeast comes in 2 different forms. It comes in a dry package of yeast that requires rehydrating, and it also comes in a liquid form made by 2 different companies. Here we see White Labs liquid yeast, which comes in a vial, and we can see the yeast right here at the bottom of the tube. But it also comes in another form commonly referred to as slap pack by Y Yeast, which has a little bubble in there full of yeast nutrient that will pop, and then the yeast will feed on that, and this package will begin to swell, and once it swells at least 1 inch, the yeast is ready to be added to the wort, which is unfermented beer, which we're going to make, and then this is pitched, as it's called. Adding the yeast is called pitching the yeast. And which form were y'all wanting today?
Well, I guess we'll go with the liquid yeast. We've used both types before, but let's go with the pouches. Those are always kind of fun to hit.
I think that's...
I love slapping them.
All right, so we need the California ale yeast. And that would be commonly referred to as Chico yeast, because the yeast strain is from Sierra Nevada Pale Ale, which is in Chico, California. So we commonly refer to it as Chico yeast. And here we have Y Yeast 1056 American Ale yeast. Perfect. All these different yeasts you have to choose from all provide different flavors and different aromas. When they feed on the sugar, fermentation, and produce alcohol and CO2 gas, they also produce flavors. And at different temperatures, all yeast make different flavors, but actually each yeast produces different flavors as well. So this is probably the single most important ingredient in beer other than water. So it's water, yeast, hops, and malt, and I think we have all 4 of our ingredients if you got water at home.
Well, great. We're ready to go, I think.
All right, let's go. Let's go brew.
All right, I think we got everything. Anytime you come to a homebrew shop and get some ingredients, you need to ask yourself, do I have hops? Do I have malt? Do I have yeast? And do I have water?
Well, extras. Kevin, socks. Sock box.
Yeah, we need the socks.
Okay.
Let me grab
So
those
anyways,
real quick.
in addition to this, of course, you know, bottles, everything else, but it looks like we got just about everything we need. And
cleaner, sanitizer.
You know what? I need some more iodine.
Iodine.
And we use that for cleaning. In addition, we use that instead of the bleach.
Okay. So. Yeah, we discussed bleach earlier, and iodine is a wonderful, it's an iodine-based sanitizer known as Bartender's Friend, iodine-based sanitizer. It's easier to use than bleach. It's a little more expensive than bleach, but a lot easier to use than bleach. It's not more effective, it is as effective as bleach.
I use it all the time. That is so much easier for me to use than bleach. So, it is.
So we got
great.
hop socks, we got your hops, we got your malt, we got your yeast.
Grains.
Got your malt, grains. I think we're ready to go.
Just give me up a big tab there, and I think it's my turn, isn't it, Kevin?
Thank you.
No problem.